Thank you, Chairwoman Taylor and members of this committee for hearing Senate Bill 319, the Child Victims Act today. Sexual abuse is a societal problem that is not limited to any one part of our nation, any one class of people, or any institution. Senate Bill 319, the Child Victims Act, repeals the statute of limitations for civil suits filed by victims of childhood sexual assault and rape, and allows victims who are currently barred from bringing suit because they are over the age of 35 a 3-year window to bring their perpetrator to civil court.
This is an opportunity for the state to allow victims of this abuse a forum to receive some form of justice.
Increases the likelihood that people who prey sexually on children will be identified and stopped.
We believe also fundamentally that the process should be open for those individuals that have suffered from abuse to seek redress, to seek justice in the proper forum. And that's what this bill would allow them to do.
We know that pedophiles, if given the opportunity, will continue to seek out new victims. Research has shown that these child molesters and rapists will have between 80 to 100 victims during their lifetime and will continue to victimize children well into their 60s and beyond.
In recent years, we've seen compelling, moving examples of individuals who have suffered horribly through childhood sexual assault come forward, and what they will tell us in moving terms is what drove them oftentimes was having a child of their own. And being willing to step forward to make sure that what happened to them could never happen to their loved one or anyone else's loved one.
According to the Department of Justice, only about 10% of sexual predators have been identified. By passing this legislation, we will be able to give law enforcement the opportunity to catch these criminals who sexually prey on our children.
Archbishop Listecki, welcome to the Senate. Welcome to Madison. He is speaking against.
I am. And thank you, Senator Taylor and fellow committee members. While we cannot change what has happened, we can continue to learn from it. Because I removed that priest immediately upon an allegation. He doesn't stay there. We don't wait for someone to kind of take a look to see if it's substantiated or not. That priest is removed from active entry. So that's one of my responsibilities.
And welcome.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to address you today. I am Tony Blando, and I represent Unified Catholic Schools of Oshkosh, the school system that I am charged to lead, and I also represent my 3 daughters who do attend our schools. 5 years ago, I retired from the United States Army after a 21-plus career of active service, and during that time, I was blessed to train and lead thousands of young men and women in a safe, disciplined, nurturing, and respectful environment. And when I retired, I decided I wanted to do something a little easier and a little safer, so I accepted a position as president of a Catholic school system. I was wrong. It is far from safer, and I often joke that at least in the Army, you generally know who the enemy is. You must know that the Diocese of Green Bay takes the issue of child safety very, very seriously. We believe that nothing is more repugnant than the mistreatment, abuse, or exploitation of the children. We simply could not afford to defend ourselves as we, like most other nonprofits, struggle just to operate each year. I believe if this bill passes, that my wife and hundreds of others will not have the choice or the opportunity to educate their children in our Catholic schools. We would have to close our doors, and the 760 children and families in Oshkosh that we serve would have to go to the Oshkosh Area School District.
Next, we have Ronald Johnson speaking against.
It is a valid question to ask whether the employer of a perpetrator should also be severely damaged, possibly destroyed, in our legitimate desire for justice. I am a confirmed Lutheran that has members agreed to serve on the boards of Catholic and other nonprofit organizations because I strongly support their important missions. The people I work with in these organizations are fine, decent human beings, working hard to help improve people's lives. I urge you to defeat this legislation so that we can all continue to benefit from their good and noble work.
He learned my parents' patterns. He learned that they did errands on Saturday. And when they were gone, he came to my home and raped me on the living room floor of our family home. My father went to the bishop and he said, and I am quoting, "Well, Father has had sexual difficulties in his parishes." I wish this were the only bishop who knew that he had perpetrators working for him, but it's turned out to be pretty common, as we've seen in the newspapers. The only reason that I was able to get the very, very expensive therapy that it really takes to give you your life back is that I am a wealthy person. So when I hear this hoo-ha about how the poor are going to somehow or another pay for it, if all of the people who are rendered poor by the fact that they have to pay for their medical rehabilitation, their psychiatric rehabilitation out of their own pockets, it just makes me ill. The sad reality is that we have been let down so completely by our bishops. We have only the state of Wisconsin to come to. And I want to make it clear, I have no intention of ever suing the Catholic Church. But as a wealthy person, I didn't have to sue to get the therapy I needed.
I came here today expecting something much different. I am someone who's just come to the realization I was abused by a priest. And Senator, you asked about recall and things of that nature. It does happen, and it is true, because these heinous events are so bad that as a youngster, you bury it. You bury it because you protect your family. You bury it because you protect the priests. I come here today and I listen to the rhetoric, and I now know why survivors stay quiet. This is an unbelievable thing happening here. We have bishops lying about their record. We have websites casting bullshit. How can you come forward? How can you feel safe? He got several minutes to sit up here and I get 2. I ask today that we make a stand, that we put money aside, because that's really what this truly is about. One side talking about money, the other side talking about healing. What side's talking about what? I want to get better. I will not get better until people are held accountable. The abuse is graphic, haunting, sickening. And for that group to my right to sit there and talk about the Catholic religion, the business that is the Catholic religion, going to go under if we allow victims to be heard, is sickening. I am disgusted being here. This is not what I expected. Although I'm impressed that they stayed. My guess is they stayed because there's so much financial risk here. And my time is up. I know he got 15 minutes and I'm going to get 2 or 3, and that is it. That pretty much sums up what it's like to be a victim. So as you move forward with this bill,
One second, please. I would ask that we refrain from clapping. This is. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. The man sitting next to me is my brother William. You can't see William because he died in 1995, When William was 9 and I was 7, we were being abused by a Catholic priest. My brother William went to my mother and he told her what was happening. My mother went to the leading priest in Shawano and reported it. At that time, nobody thought this was something that was common. It was something very uncommon, and that's how it was treated. My mother couldn't tell my father because she was afraid that he might hunt the priest down and kill him, and that would destroy our family. So it was not talked about in our family. And I didn't find out until my father died in 1983 that he never knew. My mother never told him. William and I both fell away from the Catholic Church. We became alcoholics. And as time went on, it seemed like we were in a desert, a religious desert. In 2002, when things started to develop out in Boston about Father John Gogan, we realized that these things were happening in every diocese in this country. What happened to us was not something that was an aberration. In 2002, I was 58. So the statute of limitations had me gone. I was gone. It was way past me. So I went to the diocese in Green Bay and reported what happened. And I came away with more questions than I went there with. Since 2002, I asked every bishop who was in charge of the Green Bay Diocese to see the file of the priest who abused me. They refused. I said, if I wrote to the Pope and he ordered you to let me look at the file, would you let me see it? And they said, yes. So I wrote to the Pope. The Pope didn't reply. I know a long time has passed, but I was just a little boy when this happened. I couldn't do nothing about it. But you pass this law and I'll do something about it.
Tea Party prioritizes these things. You might look to Wisconsin. There, businessman Ron Johnson is running as a family man, a Washington outsider who doesn't have experience with lawsuits like all those D.C. lawyers do. Turns out he does know about some lawsuits. This is a picture of John Feeney, a former priest transferred from the Green Bay Diocese to Nevada after allegations of child abuse. In 2008, a victim of his in Nevada sued the Green Bay Diocese for covering up Feeney's past and moving him on to prey on new victims. What does this have to do with Johnson? He sat on the Green Bay Diocese Finance Council, the body that manages its books and signs off on its lawsuit settlements. The head of the Finance Council, on which Johnson sat, was Auxiliary Bishop Robert Morneau, who was long ago blamed for relocating Feeney time after time in Green Bay. Today, in response,
I'm a confirmed Lutheran that has agreed to serve on the boards of Catholic and other nonprofit organizations because I strongly support their important missions. The people I work with in these organizations are fine, decent human beings, working hard to help improve people's lives. I urge you to defeat this legislation so that we can all continue to benefit from their good and noble work.